If you're a parent, you absolutely know the feeling. The frustration just boils over, you raise your voice, and then almost immediately, that wave of guilt washes over you. Well, today we're going to break down a really powerful science-backed strategy that helps you get out of that cycle for good. It's all about shifting from being a referee in a screaming match to becoming a respected corner coach for your kid. So let's kick things off with this quote. It actually comes from the Equal Chance Boxing Foundation, of all places, and it just hits so hard. This one sentence really gets to the very heart of the problem, doesn't it? To teach calm, we have to start by finding our own. Does this sound familiar to you? You're exhausted, a boundary gets pushed for the 10th time that day, and boom, the yelling starts. And then later, when the house is finally quiet, that guilt is just overwhelming. You promise yourself, I'm not going to do that again, but without a totally new game plan, that cycle almost always repeats.
So why is it so incredibly hard to break out of this? We often blame ourselves, or maybe we even blame our kids. But the answer isn't about having more willpower. It's actually about biology. So what is really happening inside your child's brain when you raise your voice? Okay, let's get into this, because understanding the neuroscience here is literally the key to unlocking a better way. This isn't just some abstract theory. It's a real look at why that old-school punitive discipline is basically doomed to fail before it even starts. So think about it from their perspective. To a child's brain, a yelling parent who is bigger, louder, and looks angry is basically processed as a threat to their survival. It instantly triggers the amygdala, which is like the brain's smoke detector, and it just starts screaming, "Danger! Danger!" And here is the absolute kicker. When that amygdala alarm is blaring, the prefrontal cortex, that's the thinking brain responsible for logic, learning, and reason, it literally goes offline. It's like a switch flips. So you simply cannot teach a lesson to a brain that has been shut down for emergency survival procedures. It's just not possible. And once that thinking brain is offline, the body defaults to one of 3 automatic survival modes. So when you see a child yelling back, running away, or just staring blankly, it's not always them being disrespectful. It could very well be a biological fight, flight, or freeze response to what their brain sees as a threat. So here's the bottom line. Every time we yell, we might think we're teaching something, but what we're actually doing is just escalating the conflict. We're not creating a classroom. We're creating a combat zone where the only goal for our child is survival, not understanding. All right, so if yelling is off the table, what actually works? This is where we make the pivot, and it requires a really fundamental shift in how we see our role, from being a punisher who just hands out sentences to being a coach who actually teaches the right skills. And this whole shift starts by redefining one single word: discipline. Somewhere along the line, that word got hijacked to mean punishment, but its Latin root, disciplina, means to teach or to instruct. Think about it. A disciple is a student. Your job isn't to punish a mistake, it's to teach your student a better way to handle things. And the difference here is just night and day. A punisher sees bad behavior, and their goal is to make the child feel bad for it. But a corner coach, they see that exact same behavior and think, okay, my child is lacking a skill here. Maybe it's impulse control, maybe it's emotional regulation, and my job is to teach them that skill. Okay, so that's the big mindset shift, but what does it look like in the heat of the moment? Let's get practical and open up the playbook. We're going to break down the 5 foundational pillars of this whole coaching approach.
That's it, just 5 core ideas. And believe me, remembering these 5 pillars when things get tense can be the anchor that stops you from getting sucked back into that old, frustrating cycle.
So here they are. It all starts with pillar 1, connect before you correct. Then, number 2, hold firm boundaries, but do it with empathy. Number 3 is all about using consequences that actually teach a lesson. Number 4 is swapping the timeout for a supportive time in. And finally, number 5, praise the process, not just the outcome. All right, let's break each of these down. Pillar 1 is about disarming the situation. See, shouting from across the room just triggers that brain alarm we talked about. But if you get down on their level, maybe put a hand on their shoulder, and connect first, it turns off the alarm and allows them to actually hear the correction that you're about to give.
Now this is so important. Being a coach is not the same as being permissive. The boundary is firm. We do not throw blocks. But you deliver that rule while also validating the feeling behind the action. You're basically saying, hey, your feeling is totally okay, but this behavior is not.
So what happens when they cross that boundary? Well, instead of some random punishment that doesn't fit the crime, you use consequences that teach. A natural consequence is when the world is the teacher. You don't wear a coat, you feel cold. A logical one is directly connected to the mess. You throw your toys, you help clean them up. It's simple cause and effect.
A traditional timeout sends a pretty clear message to a kid. Your big feelings are too much for me, so go away. A time in does the exact opposite. It says, you're having a hard time, and I'm going to sit right here with you and lend you my calm until you can find your own. It's about regulating together, not isolating them.
And finally, we build real resilience by praising what our kids can actually control. Telling them, you're so smart, can actually create a fear of failing, but saying, wow, I saw how much effort you put into that, teaches them that their character isn't fixed. It's built through their choices and their grit.
So, we've gone through the playbook for coaching our kids, but let's be honest, the hardest part of all of this is coaching ourselves, right? Our own triggers are usually the real reason a small fire turns into a big explosion.
So here is a simple 3-step strategy for you, the parent. First, just notice the feeling, that heat rising in your chest. Second, create a tactical pause. One single deep breath can make all the difference. And third, if you have a partner, use a tap-out system. It's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's a sign of incredible strength. And remember, you don't have to do this all alone. Community programs, like that boxing foundation we mentioned at the start, can act as a kind of village. They reinforce these exact same lessons about discipline and respect, which gives your kids consistency and gives you some much-needed backup.
So let's end with this one question, because it can truly change everything. The next time your child acts out, instead of seeing them as being bad or defiant, ask yourself this: what skill is their behavior telling me they don't have yet, and how can I, as their coach, help them learn it?